I'm old now, so I will rely on my public education and use a few notes if you will excuse me, please. When Chris and I first talked about me participating in this, quite frankly, I didn't have a story that came first to mind. But I began contemplating the idea and the word and the concept of home, and a few things came to me. So this is sort of a potpourri of random thoughts on the concept of home. My mother, when I was a young kid, used to talk about going home. Now that meant that from Colorado Springs, we would make an annual or semi-annual trip to Geneva, Nebraska. That is because that is where she was from, and that is where her mother lived. So, still lived at that point. So, going home was actually leaving a place and going somewhere else. Now, I too had lived in Geneva, Nebraska for 3 years. The first 3 months, though, I spent at the Omaha Child Saving Institute awaiting my adoption. And otherwise, by the time we got to Colorado, when I was 3 years old, you know, those early memories fade very quickly. So when she would talk about going home, that was confusing, because to me, we were already there. Now, in 1971, after I'd gone to college, and I went to college in Crete, so I came back to Nebraska. But while there, home was Colorado, so a little reversal had gone on. And in 1971, my mom passed away, and I needed to move all of my stuff. And I brought it here to Nebraska. Now, I have been here over 40 years now, and a couple things from Colorado still remain. First of all, Colorado Springs is nestled up against the Rocky Mountains on the east side, and the backbone main street of that town is north and south. But when I moved to Lincoln, O Street is east and west. And still to this day, I once in a while have to stop and put the mountains on the west side in order to tell where I'm going. The other thing that has remained with me is that periodically, at least twice a week, if not more, I still dream of the neighborhood and the house that I grew up in, spending most of my time in public school. It remains with me still. In one area of our lives, technology seems to have created a distance between us and home. I work a front counter at Fringe and Tassel Costumes, and one of the questions we ask on our rental form is, home phone? Now, over the past few years, and I've worked there for about 15 years, more and more people say, I don't have a home phone. Well, I have a cell phone. It seems to be taking a long time for people to get the concept that anywhere you take your phone is home. It used to be our cats, now it's our phones. So just a couple of months ago, I finally decided to ask, a phone? Instantly they answer something. But that distance between something that we used to refer to as home and an object or a place seems to have vanished there temporarily. Now, I am generally not very comfortable going to other people's homes. I didn't always be this way, but about the last 20, 25 years, it seems to have developed. Now, an exception to that is my dear friend Marie's home. The moment that I first entered her home, I was comfortable. I have no idea particularly why, it just was. And I now, at least once, if not twice a week, go to her house. And every once in a while, I'll enter the home and say, honey, I'm home. Now,
come in, darling.
Now, we have often been mistaken for a married couple. We go out shopping every week. And this doesn't surprise me too much. We finish each other's sentences. We have couples in jokes. We share several interests. We bicker all the time. And we don't have sex. That pretty much seems like a married couple to me. But we do have something that is much more important and binding than that. And that is the woman and her gay boyfriend.
And if you don't have one, you need
You
one.
gotta get Feed us, we're easily amused. Now, my dad used to say, first take care of your own backyard. I don't know that he particularly followed his own advice, but I heard it enough to have at least incorporated it into decisions and things that I make now. And sometimes, as we are considering our own backyard, that can lead us to things so much bigger in the world. And that brings me to Caitlyn Jenner, of course. And that's because when Chris and I were first talking about me participating in this, the whole thing about Caitlyn Jenner's transition from male to female was hitting the news. And there were many people who were talking about a matter of her courage. And then there was a lot of people talking about, no, there is no courage there as compared to, say, the troops. Now, for me, I'm an atheist, but I was thinking about Ecclesiastes, because you get your wisdom where you can. And that's, wherever it comes from, it's still valuable. And I was thinking about, to everything, there is a season. To everything, a place under heaven. And that seemed to me to say that there was a place for courage for our troops, and a place and a time for courage for Caitlyn, and that the universe was probably big enough to handle all the courage we could throw at it. Personally, I thought that Jenner mostly had courage in 1980, accepting a role in Can't Stop the Music. Or as it's better known as the Village People movie. In this movie, he is in a suit and tie and has a meet cute with the devastatingly gorgeous Valerie Perrine. And she spills spaghetti sauce on his pants, and so of course his pants have to come off. And he finds himself in an old barber chair, with her crawling all over him. And now when we go and watch the movie, we realize he does not want to be with her, he wants to be her. Now that was a digression, just cause. Because I like the thought of that. And I saw that movie when it first came out. Yeah, I saw it real in the theater. But the point being that I was thinking about this, and the fact that like Caitlyn Jenner and some of the shows that are on now, and the Dallas movie that we watched. Yeah, and some other things have brought this issue of the trans population front and center. And that matters to me because of Wes and Natalie. And they are people who are friends of mine. I've known them since high school. They live in my backyard, and I care what happens to them. So sometimes, as these issues, which can affect their lives, affect mine as well. And so I follow them because it's happening in my own backyard. It is here that I practice my creativity. I've been in the theater, I've had my own makeup job doing things for ESPN, PBS, and others. And it is here that I created a character that probably more than any other remains in this community that I'm known for, and it's the character of Buddy Starr. That is a drag character. Yes, for years and still once in a while made a living as a drag queen. In fact, that's how I have my history entwined with Lincoln's history. Because in the first gay bar, in the first drag show in the first gay bar, the first set of high heels on that stage were mine. And it's also in this town that I created with my family. My wife of 22 years, Annie, who has since passed on, her two wonderful kids, Megan and Molly, and a few of the important boyfriends. And sometimes we all live together. So if that leaves you with more questions than answers, so be it. I only have 10 minutes. I will be hopefully doing later in the year a one-man show with 20 people that will explain a lot of this, so come see that. So I've been here 40 years or better. Lincoln is home. And the thing I realized while thinking about this is that now I could move somewhere else. that at my age, I'll never be anywhere as long as I've been here. And anywhere I went, well,